In this video, we're going to look at how to name polynomials. This first slide and the next slide are slides that we just need to memorize. So the first way we can name polynomials is based on their degree. Remember, degree is the sum of the exponents. So degree 0 is what we call just a constant. An example would be 5, or any other number. The idea is that there are no variables here. We could also have a degree 1, which we call a linear. 3x plus 1 would be a linear polynomial. Since this is written in standard form, we just need to look at the first term, or the term with the highest degree. That would be 3x. Since we don't see the exponent on the x, we understand that there's an invisible 1 there. Another example would be negative 7x. If we have a degree 2, we call them quadratic polynomials. So negative 8x squared plus 4x minus 9 would be a quadratic polynomial. Again, because it's written in standard form, we just need to look at the first term for the degree, negative 8x squared. His degree, or the exponent there, is a 2. That's what makes him quadratic. And then we can also have cubic polynomials. Notice here the degree on that first term is 3. If there's anything higher than a 3 for the degree, we just call it an nth degree. Here's an example, 6x to the 8th minus x to the 5th plus 4. His highest degree is 8. This we would consider to be an 8th degree polynomial. We can also name polynomials by the number of terms. Again, you need to memorize all the names for these. So we've looked at what are called monomials, or in other words, there's only one term. Monomials could be x cubed, 5, or 6x. If we have two terms, then we call it a binomial. X cubed plus 5 is a binomial. The first term is x cubed, and then plus 5 is my second term. Negative 4x plus 1 is also a binomial. The terms in a polynomial are divided by plus and minus signs. Let's look at a trinomial. 7x squared plus 3x minus 3. Here the plus and the minus sign divide up my three terms. Polynomials with 4 terms we call a 4-term polynomial. Negative x to the 6th plus x to the 4th minus 3x minus 5 has 4 terms, so this would be considered a 4-term polynomial. Any polynomial with 5 terms or more we refer to as a polynomial. Here would be an example of a polynomial. We have 5 terms, x to the 6th, 7x to the 4th, negative x cubed, 4x, and 11. So now we're going to look at a few examples of taking a polynomial and naming it by the degree and the number of terms. On this slide, I included our charts to help us get our naming right and to help us with spelling. Here's our first example, negative 2x plus 5. Always name your polynomial by the degree and then the number of terms. Also, it helps to make sure that these are always in standard form. So when you do your homework, check to make sure it's in standard form first. So by degree, we're going to look at this first term, negative 2x. His degree is a 1. That invisible 1's there. So if we go to our chart, we see any polynomial with a degree of 1 is called linear. So we'll write linear here. And then we want to name it by the number of terms. So if you look at our polynomial, we see negative 2x is one term, and then we have a 5 for our second term. So this polynomial has 2 terms. In our chart, it says number of terms 2. We call that a binomial. And that's all we would have to do to name that polynomial. Here's another example. First, name it by its degree. Again, because these are in standard form, we can look at the first term, 8x to the 4th. His degree, or his exponent, is 4. So if we come over to our degree chart, we don't see a 4, so it's just an n. So we'll call this a 4th degree. And then we need to name it by terms. he has 1, 2, 3 terms. In our chart, 3 terms is called a trinomial. So this polynomial would be called a 4th degree trinomial. Here's our third example, 7x minus 2. Name and by its degree first. 7x has a degree of 1. Degree of 1 is called linear. Now name and by the number of terms. 7x and 2. That's 2 terms. 2 terms is called a binomial. So 7x minus 2 would be called a linear binomial. Here's our final example. He's in standard form. Why don't you hit pause and try this on your own? Okay, so you've tried it. His highest degree is 5, so this is going to be called a 5th degree. And then he has 2 terms, so we'll call it a binomial. So when we're naming polynomials, remember, always name by the degree and then the number of terms. Also, checking and making sure that you're in standard form first will help significantly.